So hi everyone, I'm Victor Purton and I run the Centre for Optimism with a whole lot of wonderful people, volunteers who lead in all sorts of spheres. And one of the things that has really made our period under lockdown is song. And we've had so many workshops, and as you know, we often end them with laughter yoga. And then one day Kay said, look, let's sing at the end. And singing at the end of anything on optimism, whether, in fact, Kay joined us. We did something out of the Congo last year. We had people from the Congo and Malawi and Zimbabwe, and we ended up with a choir from Malawi singing to us from their church. And so it has so enriched our life of optimism. And those of you who are on LinkedIn will see that Kay twice a week shares the music of optimism. And honestly, I don't see greater conversation on any posts in social media than Kay Clancy's Songs for Optimism. And today, Kay has brought along her good friend, Adam. And Adam has a lifetime in music. But the stories he'll share with you today of applying that music to good causes. You know, one of the things that blew me away as we prepared for this was Adam preparing a submission to a royal commission on the rights of the disabled by having the children sing their submission. You know, so there's the power of song that lifts us all, and using song to make social change is so deep in our culture. So look, I won't do a long introduction. You're all here to listen to Adam and Kay. Kay, can I hand over to you?
Yes, you can. Thank you, Victor, and thank you, everyone, and thank you, Adam, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So as we came on today, if we'd started like this, you don't bring me flowers, you don't sing me love songs, you'd certainly get a sense of what it is we were going to talk about. And you'd probably have a face a bit like this, because it would tell you that the mood is somber and we're just going to be reflective. Alternatively, if you came on and we were going, Badia, say do you remember, you'd have a very different sense of what we were about to do. And so that's instinctive in us. You know, you will recognize the sensation of finding your foot tapping without you actually doing anything because music's come on. And so let's just hit you with some research. So the University of Missouri, they've done a whole heap of research, and they tell us that if you're listening to music that is happy and upbeat, you will feel good. Yeah, we know that already. We also know from the University of McGill in Canada, they tracked the connection between the release of dopamine and listening to music that was happy. So they also know that happy music releases dopamine in your brain, and then you feel good. They've done a whole heap of research with children as well. So in 2008, there was a research study undertaken of children who are primary school aged. And what they found was that of the children who were researched, those who did music as additional learning for their curriculum, they had higher verbal IQ, they had higher visual abilities, and the research showed that there were structural changes in their brain after only 15 months. So the neurons started to fuse differently and create a different brain than the brain they'd started with. In 2013, 1,000 school-aged children in Finland were researched, and what that research found was that the children who were in singing classes felt happier at school. So singing made them feel happier, but they also recognized that it made them get on better with each other. So now you start seeing the ripple effect of you know, singing and music. In connection with that, a study that was done in 2013 found that there are additional benefits if you join in, you know, if you engage with the music. So if you sing along, you get even more benefits than just having it playing in the background. And you'll all recognize the feel-good factor when you think no one's listening and you belt something out as you're chopping your vegetables or running along. You get just a completely different sensation. The London Business School, so let's turn it to economics now. The London Business School did a whole heap of research, and they researched 40 nations and the music choices that people in those 40 nations listened to based on their Spotify sound lists. And what they did was they tracked the positive songs with the performance in each country's stock market. And guess what? They found a correlation. So they found that when our mood was better, our financial returns were better as well. So when people listen to happy songs, they perform much better. In Virginia, the research has shown that when you are doing exercise, listening to music or singing along to music will actually help you push through. So it helps your resilience, it helps you overcome any pain or discomfort that you might be feeling, and it actually makes you feel good because it layers on top of the endorphins that you're already releasing from your exercise. In 2009, a health study now, collated all of the research from 23 different studies that covered 1,500 people. And what they found was listening to positive music reduces your blood pressure, reduces your heart rate, and it reduces anxiety in heart disease patients. So there's tons and tons of research that shows us that music is really good for us. Let me pass back to you, Victor.
As everyone knows, that no guest joining us can go unasked the question, what makes you optimistic? So Adam, your smile already shows us you're optimistic, but you've shared with me a secret that your optimism has been a lifelong journey. So tell us, Adam, what makes you optimistic?
Thank you, Victor, and thanks everybody for joining. I believe optimism for me is something that I would only say that I can put my hand up and say is one of my virtues in the last 10 to 20 years. And it's something I've had optimistic moments through my younger years, but considering myself an optimistic person is something that really only happened in my middle years of my life. And I think that for me, the thing that has changed that point of view, that I would now call myself an optimistic person, is the journey of the gathering of tools that enable me to have that platform of optimism. And by that, Kay touched on it. It is things like meditation. It is things like songwriting. It is the joy of experiencing my own voice. And you'll hear me sing later, but it's easy to assume that a singer was always a singer. When I was 15, I said to my dad, I wouldn't mind singing at the Shepparton Town Hall's talent competition when I was 15. And Dad said, don't be stupid, you'll embarrass the family. Okay, so all these tools that I've gathered over this long period of time, and I'm still gathering them, by the way, the toolkit is never, ever complete. It's a bit like the Nike, there is no finishing line. I believe that my toolkit is ever evolving, it's ever changing, just as we all are as human souls. But all those tools now have given me the ability to see life as an optimistic person, to be able to answer a question in an optimistic way, to be able to be involved in a conversation and take the optimistic line rather than cross my arms and join in with the negative throng. All right, so all those things I think go towards what makes me optimistic. But if I can finish Victor's first question in saying the opposite to that, not being optimistic or being pessimistic or being negative, just doesn't appeal. It just does not appeal. And once you're on that path of optimism, once you're on the path of positivity, and I'm looking at a screen of beautiful people right now who are on the path, the thought of going back to where you were scares the absolute crap out of you. And I wouldn't want to go back to that fragile learning young man who doesn't have as many tools. So I'm glad right now that I can call myself an optimistic person. I'm glad I'm on the path. Hope that answered the question as an opening, Victor.
It's brilliant, Anne, because it actually captures the science. You know, young people are positive, but you don't max out in optimism till you're in your 70s and even 80s. And, you know, there's an Israeli study from late last year which showed that at the age of 85, being optimistic as opposed to pessimistic actually has a 7-year difference in lifespan. So it's pretty amazing. But Kate Clancy, you didn't have it in the run sheet, but you're not going to escape. What makes you optimistic?
Okay, so rippling makes me optimistic. You know, I'm passionate about ripples. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by rippling, I mean the words I use and the actions I take have impact far beyond the moment in which the words are spoken or the action taken. And I realized very early on in my leadership journey that I have an impact on people. Yeah. So as a human, I have an impact, and as a leader, I have an impact as well. And I also recognize that I have a choice about that impact. And so music's always been in my life, and I use that to shift my ripple, and I also use it to shift the ripple of those around me. But I've been doing it for so long that I'm often doing that unconsciously, and some of you on the call tonight have worked with me, and I still get emails now from people I've worked with 30 years ago who say, do you still sing in the office? And yeah, the answer would be, I do, yes. And sometimes it will be triggered by something somebody says, or a sensation that things are a bit flat, but the need the need to own the fact that I'm impacting others is really, really important. And so what makes me optimistic is the knowledge that I have the power to shift my mood, and I also am accountable and responsible for the impact I have on those around me, and that's a free choice that I get to make. And so there's something around consciousness and choice and creating ripples. That's what makes me optimistic.
And you do. You are so infectious, you know. We get so many people say, and you must bring Kay to finish off the event. You know, we can't finish an optimism event, no matter how serious what country it is, without singing now. So your ripple is truly global.
I think one of the really inspiring pieces for me about you, Adam, is the way you've used music over the last 30 years and beyond to make a difference, and how that has evolved. But I'd like us to think a little bit about your Chocolate Starfish moments, because those moments, those big arena moments where everyone is picking up your enthusiasm and your optimism and your emotion because you're putting it out there, and the wave is the ripple. When did the penny drop for you that music has a connection beyond that big arena stuff?
That's a great opening question, and that's also why I've encouraged people to turn their camera on, because you mentioned the ripple before. We ripple back and forward, and if it's a one-way conversation, it's like for those, put your hand up if you've got kids or you've worked with kids, right? Right. So if you're communicating but your child or your grandchild is giving nothing back to you, it's a very one-way street. So when did the penny drop for me? I think initially, and it's, if I'm going to talk about the evolution of music for me, and we all have music on the timeline of our life. When you hear songs now that remind you of certain parts of your life, you'll hear a song and it will automatically put you back. And for me as a songwriter, back when I made that decision to express through music, that linear songline became really obvious to me. So I can recall the very first song I ever wrote. I can recall where I was, who I wrote it with. Unfortunately, I can't recall the melody or the lyrics, but I can recall the emotion attached to it. All right. So that first poignant moment, and I was actually studying journalism at university, and I was going to be a writer, probably a journalist that probably bagged singers out just like myself and gave them really bad reviews. But there was an ad in the Geelong Advertiser that said singer wanted. And I thought, oh, look, it's probably a wedding singer. I can probably put a few Elvis Presley songs together. I was in the Shepparton High School production of West Side Story. I can probably do this. Answered the ad, and this guy said, oh, no, it's not a wedding band. I write songs on the piano, but I don't do any lyrics, or I don't know how to write a melody. And he said, I turned up for the audition, and I said, mate, look, I haven't really ever written a song. I've never, created anything other than, at school. And he said, "You're the only person who's auditioned for the job." And he said, "I spent $100 on the ad. Would you mind just hanging around for the afternoon and see what happens?" We wrote a song that day. I quit my journalism course 2 weeks later. 15 years later, I had an ARIA award. Right? So that day, the penny dropped that music had not only an influence on those that I would sing it to, but it had a major influence on me cathartically being able to release some of the stories of my life. And as a songwriter, and I'll focus on the songwriting part of it first before I get to the performance part of it, but the ability, I lost my mum and my sister in my teenage years. So my teenage years were blanketed with sorrow. And I really ran away. It's so much, music's always been around me, but I kind of ran away to the circus. And if that was like the news, I ran away from all the pain by joining a band. And whilst there was sex, drugs, rock and roll and everything, it was all pretty good until I had to face reality. And I remember it was during the Chocolate Starfish second album, the box album. And I was struggling to write songs, and it was my mum's 50th birthday. She would have been 50. She died when she was 35. So it was, 15 years after her death. And I wrote this poetry to her, celebrating her 50th one night on a lake in Tassie. And I showed the guys in the band the words, and the last line in the poem was, "Motherless is what I am, no matter what I do." And Motherless became a song, not just a song for that album, but it became a song that released some of the pain, some of the confrontation, right? That I knew I had to deal with, but we often walk away from it, or we often block it out. So on a songwriting level, that's when the penny dropped for me. On a performance level, that's been a journey. So over 30 years, I've been able to do everything from major arenas, but in the early days, 5, 6 people that you'd sing to. I'm a crazy performer. I jump off stage. I sit on people's knees, usually the blokes, and that's fine too, right? But I do all these crazy things. I jump up on the bar. Google, if you haven't Googled it, you'll see me doing stuff. Wear kilts where I take my undies off and slingshot them out into the auditorium. It's all entertainment, right? So to get to that pinnacle of the big arenas, there's been trial and error performances of you using music as a way to express, who I am. So there's the songwriting aspect of it. There's the performance aspect of it, on how it's changed my life and others. But then, and perhaps this is another question, Kay, but I then created a platform which I now have, over the last 20 years, helped people across the world in groups find their passion. Maybe that's a question, Kay.
I think it is a question. I'm going to just wipe my eyes. Every time I talk to Adam, he says something and I cry, or he sings something and I cry because he touches me. That's moving people, isn't it? So as a process, Adam, and this is easing into now what you've just talked about, going beyond that performance piece. How do you move people with music? Where does the power lie?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, and one I've pondered many, many times. And I think I talked about my toolkit earlier on, but one of the things that I've developed is, and my good friend Debbie, is, you'll see her on the group right now. She's participated in many events with me in my program Muso Magic, and it's that's what I touched on before, where we get groups of people together to tackle a social issue. And it could be a group of young people in a council area that are tackling drugs, the issue of drugs, or it could be the many workshops I've done in remote Aboriginal communities that could be tackling It could be tackling homelessness, domestic violence. So some fairly intense topics, but it's getting all these people to express not only the lyrics, but getting them to record, even if they've never sung in their life before, and getting them to create a film clip that comes from their heart and their soul into the process. So speaking of Aboriginals, my good friend Sammy Butcher is he's one of the members of the band Warumpi Band, and you'll all know, if the Australians will all know him and that band, even if you don't already, as the writers of My Island Home, that was made famous by Christine Anu. So I'd also challenge you to Google the original Warumpi Band version of that, and he talks about, and there's a word for it. He talks about he uses the word kulila. And kulila is listen to silence. And out bush, when you go right out bush with the elders, it is from silence that every sound comes, okay? And I look at it that way with music. The greatest joy for me is to drive in the outback for 10 hours in silence, with no phone, with no radio. And from that, emotion comes. The things that are in my subconscious come out in a song because I've allowed myself silence. And whether we're talking about the songs that move us and how music moves us, silence should also move you, right? Silence and what comes after that silence and before that silence should also, I believe, move you, because it is those gaps. It's like astronomers when if there was a star connected to every star, it wouldn't be as exciting as the blank bits in between. I think I taught Deb about Dark Emu, which is actually a constellation not of stars but of darkness. So it's very similar in silence. So I use silence to augment my messages. And that's one of the things I've also learned from Indigenous people is we as Westerners and as white fellas think we have to communicate and have noise if someone asks us a question. And one of the things Aboriginal people do so well is pause. And there's awkward silence. Well, we feel it's awkward. They don't. Then give a considered response, not just, right, just letting the mouth roll. So you probably feel this is off topic to music, but it's actually not. It is the essence of everything, because no matter every song that you like right now, every song that you think is part of your playlist came from nothing. And that is the beauty of creativity. It came from nothing. And tomorrow I could wake up, and I do it many times, and there's this little idea, and I think, where did that come from? Who will that resonate with? And what changes will that make in some people's lives when I release it?
That's beautiful. And I just want to, Karen has put in the chat, Adam, your music has always made her feel optimistic. And then she puts in brackets, well, some songs, close brackets, which I think is beautiful, because some of your music is so hopeful, and some of it, I love the way you described that. It was like an outpouring or a healing, getting some of your sorrow out. And that's just beautiful. Thank you, Karen, for that.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Well, it is. And a song like Motherless helped me heal that way. But the song Mountain, which was one of our biggest hits, give me a heart or a thumbs up if you know our song, You Wanted Me to Be a Mountain, I'd Rather Be a River. Yeah. Yes. So that particular song was all about choice. And I believe optimism, we touched on it in the very beginning. Sometimes it's about making a choice. And the mountain metaphor, a mountain looks strong, it looks impenetrable. But the line says, you wanted me to be a mountain that appeared strong at face value, but the river will find its destiny. It sometimes it's got to do 10 different meanders until it finds its destiny. And I'd rather be the river because it's a never-ending flow.
There's something beautiful in that, Adam, around the so isn't it just so humbling to be in the presence of an ARIA award winner? Like, let's be real. Like, so that greatness, and yet the way you present and the human that you are subordinates yourself into an honest and humble place rather than that rock star piece. You know, did that just happen, or was that a conscious thing?
So I think when I first saw reality TV, and I don't know what it was about it, but it shocked me, but not in a good way. It shocked me in a way that it was all drama and it was all sensationalism for TV. And I knew that wasn't the essence of my creativity. The essence of my creativity was cathartic, and it was hopefully healing and something that I could offer others. And when I saw people being measured, I don't think music should be a measurement, okay? I don't think songs should be measured top 1, top 10. I don't think artists, I mean, if someone like Bob Dylan went on an Australian Idol, he'd never get anywhere unless he had a backstory that his family had passed away, right? But his messages and his songs are more than important. They're essential to who we are as human beings. So I really wanted to create something that that everyone could feel empowered to participate in. And that's why I created this Muso Magic program, that it wasn't about judgment, it was about release. It was about, you know, everyone on this Zoom call right now could experience something today that they'd never experienced before. And even if it's me teaching you how to listen to a note and sing in tune, even if it's writing one line of poetry that, let's say, Anthea wrote one line in our program and she put it together with Tracy's, and all of a sudden those two half lines together made this beautiful piece of poetry that couldn't have been done without the sum of the parts. And that's humanism. That is us. That is us collaborating. And I think there's just not enough collaboration. There's too much ego in the world. And if you drop your ego, and the one person that I'm so in love with at the moment is Brene Brown, and she talks about vulnerability. And whenever I go into any situation now, even if it's this Sunday when I'm doing One Electric Day at Werribee with Jimmy Barnes and all the other big acts, I'm doing this thing. I don't want to go in there with ego. I want to go in there as a vulnerable, open human being about to sing my songs, and I want to share every bit of my love, my human energy. And I talk back to ripples again, Kay. I know it ripples back and forward and back and forward, and it's almost like we're escalating this energy to a peak. That's why I do it.
I love that, and I will stop talking at some point. So if you've got something that you'd like to ask Adam, just raise your hand and I will come to you. Please don't worry, I will come to you. So you talked about Muso Magic, and that Muso Magic is doing some remarkable things. So tell us about that, and tell us about the work for the Royal Commission, as Victor mentioned earlier, because that piece is magical.
Absolutely, thanks. Look, you know, it gives everyone a voice, this program, and it gives people the ability to not be defined by their clique or their what they perceive is their level within a company, within a friendship group. We really provide a platform of safety where it's non-judgmental and everyone can put out their ideas. And I don't know why, maybe this is my God-given energy. I don't know what it is, but and Deb will, I'm sure, give me a thumbs up with this, but she's seen it, you know, 10 to 20 times and it doesn't matter whether it's a group of Aboriginal kids in the middle of the desert or whether it's in Euroa where she lives, or whether it's a corporate company, or even a group of disability kids like the Royal Commission. It's important to let them have that platform that they can collaborate and they can express what's really going on in their life. And I love the program. I wish there was 10 of me. I wish we could, and maybe there's some potential Adam or Adamettes out there today that could jump on board and help me do this. But it works. We've got a music center in India where we give kids that creative presence that don't have the finances to do it. So I've got a very small charity which we work with the kids in India. We've done the Australian Olympic swimming team just before the last Olympics. That's why it was great to see Dylan Alcott win that Australian of the Year yesterday, because it shows, and he used a footnote which was fantastic, right? You'll always be more than surprised by what a person with disability can achieve. But I think not just disability people, everybody, you are greater than the sum of what you believe you are. It's your blockages and it's your history that disallows you from taking those steps. But I say use music to empower you to take those steps, and you'll find there's so much more to you than what you realize you've got.
The video for the DAXA Royal Commission submission is so joyful. What was it like to be part of that?
Well, actually, this is interesting. I did that all virtually. So, and this is where I actually empowered a lady from DAXA who I first worked with when this is the effect that, talk about the effect that music can have in your timeline of life. This young girl who in South Australia who did Muso Magic about a dozen times as she was growing up. Then she's now one of the heads of DAXA, the disability scheme, and she wanted to bring her experience to these kids, and COVID disallowed me from getting there to South Australia. So I had to really upskill her and a couple of other local musicians that I trusted and worked really well with. So it gives me faith that, like I said before, that anyone can do more than what they believe they can. So these people all facilitated that. I did a couple of online things with them, but mostly it was them just sharing the energy that I was able to share with them. So it's passing it on. It's ripple. It's all ripple.
It is all ripple. Tell us about Reconnected, Adam. What's the story behind Reconnected? Because it feels very personal. It feels much more personal than your previous work.
Yeah, so Reconnected is my solo album I did in early 2000s, and I had to walk away from Chocolate Starfish in the late 90s because I'd kind of lost my way. I almost became a parody of what I wanted, who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. And everybody knew me as the lead singer of the band Chocolate Starfish, but I'd forgotten who Adam Thompson was. I'd forgotten who I was as a person at 40, and I'd forgotten how to learn. So I had to walk away for about 10 years. And part of those tools that I talked about in the very first start of our conversation was really experiencing things that put me out of my comfort zone. And so, some of those were living in Africa with the Maasai for a month. I lived over there. That was an experience and a half. I also then went all the way to the other side of the world to write an album in Sweden, which was Reconnected, with people that knew absolutely nothing about Chocolate Starfish. They had no preconceived, Adam Thompson's this, so he should sing a song like this, to co-write with these people. And the songs that came out of Reconnected, for me, are so important because they paint the picture of an evolving soul. They paint the picture of a man who's transitioning between success in a rock and roll band into who he could become, and now being back with that rock and roll band Chocolate Starfish, but back with a new integrity and a new sense of self that, yes, is very optimistic, but has a plethora of tools that won't get sucked into just being a one-dimensional pony. I really now feel every morning I wake up feeling that today is probably going to be the best day of my life, and I'm going to throw back to when I walked away from Chocolate Starfish. We had a manager at the time, and he said, and I think I was 30, maybe I was 34, 35, and he said, "Do you think you've pretty much reached the pinnacle of what you can do?" And he was serious. And I said, "No, I don't." And I said, "You probably shouldn't be my manager anymore." At 35, I was washed up. I was done, he thought. But what I've achieved since then is 20-fold more important in my life, and has given me platforms that I can now make huge differences, not just one-sided differences. So when you're singing, so I'm just going to finish with this. When you're singing to a crowd, yes, they can sing back to you, but it is quite linear, all right? When I do something like this, you're hearing my narrative now. When I do Muso Magic and I'm sitting in a circle with the elders of an Aboriginal community, when I'm in India and I'm at I'm at a festival with 3 different languages of Indian people, and we translate a song from 1 to 2 to 3 because Hindi to Telugu to Bengali, right? It's an absolute head spin, but it's so exciting, right? And it's so beautiful that I can't begin to compare it to singing to 12,000 people. It's actually more important to me.
That's quite special, actually. That's very special. So where do you get your inspiration from? Who do you look to? What has shaped? And that can be in the music world,
Yes.
I don't know, who shapes, who's
All right. Well,
influenced you?
let me start with musically. This next weekend, I'm about to go out and do Bohemian Rhapsody. So Freddie was my performer, the person who, as a performer, inspired me the most. So I'm doing that at the Palms at Crown next Friday night. I was right in the middle of Australian tour when COVID hit, so I'm really happy to get back and do that. And the other one, and he's just passed away, Meatloaf. Meatloaf and Bat Out of Hell was the definitive album, and I'll give you a good story around that. I remember I was 14, Mum had just passed away. Dad was down doing the farming, and I bought the Bat Out of Hell album and I stuck it on, and it just lifted me. And I was on top of the couch and I'm like a bat out of hell. I'm jumping off the couch and I'm rocking the whole bit, right? Oh, wouldn't it be good to meet him one day? Fast forward, I'm not kidding you, fast forward 20 years, we're signed on the same label. It's Meatloaf's 50th birthday. I've been invited to Rod Laver, and we're backstage. His daughter calls everybody into a huddle to celebrate, and at the time I was just in conversation with him, so I'm in a circle with Meat putting his arm around my shoulder, and I'm just thinking, that's the same guy that used to sing to jumping off the couch and rolling around the floor. So I believe you put out stuff for the universe, and it brings back to you. So musically, that's definitely who've inspired me. But largely, it's the givers of the world, the givers, and whether that's someone like Mother Teresa, or whether that's the game changers. Even someone again who's just passed away. From To Serve With Love.
Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier, yeah. I remember seeing that. I remember also seeing, David Gulpilil in Storm Boy when I was a kid. And I was racist as a kid. I'd never met an Aboriginal person, but I remember looking at Storm Boy and that movie, and he both excited me and scared the living daylights out of me in one foul swoop. And I, again, met him and went to his community Ramingining during my trips with Muso Magic. So, you know, music's a pretty powerful inviter. If you keep inviting that into your conscious, it gives back.
That's yes. That would be my only response to that. Yes.
Thank you.
And so I'd be punished terribly if I didn't pose the question to you that I posed to everybody on our soundtrack. Now, and I hear you say you get your inspiration from silence, and that's where you go to. But on those days when your brain is fuggy, you know, those like sluggy, like kind of days, what is it? What could you put on that would just pull you right out? What would that be?
Oh, Tracy's smiling because she's waiting. What's he going to say? What's he going to say? Well, look, to be honest, it's probably Motown songs. So whether it's you know, ABC by the Jackson 5, whether it's I feel good, I knew that I would now, right? Any of that sort of funky Motown stuff, I just can't help but, you know, move my feet. It just gets me going. And, you know, that's the real up vibe side that that I can lose myself, you know, in dance. So for me, right then, if I'm doing just that, I'm in that moment and I'm just dancing, right? And that's it. So I'm not thinking of a song. But when I'm driving in a car and I've got silence, that's when my own song will come. So yeah, look, Motown definitely for me. Lionel Richie, Marvin Gaye, man, you know, that to me, even though I don't sing like that, even though I don't perform that style, it's what I listen to when I want to lose the fog.
When you need a lift. And there's something really interesting in there, isn't there? There's a versatility around, this isn't my style, but boy, can it lift me. That's really helpful. And
that's appreciation too, Kay, because one of the things I tell young people as well, especially young bands who are trying to find their sound, don't just listen to your idol, right? Because if you listen to your idol only, there's quite a chance you'll become a poor man's version of that because they did it first, right? But if you get little bits and pieces from things that, you know, you're experiencing for the first time, whether it's punk, whether it's, you know, heavy rock, whatever it might be, it's those little bits of influences, a bit like the toolkit from earlier on, it's those little bits of influences that will help make the definitive, unique and one-off individual you only.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to a breakout room and ask you all to share what makes you optimistic musically. So what do you turn to when you have a little fuggy fug? But before we do that, has anybody got anything they'd like to ask Adam? He's here.
I'm here. Come on.
Captive.
Come on. Tracy, you're first. Come on, Trace.
Tracy's a regular visitor on our soundtrack and she regularly shares.
Come on, Trace. Go off mute.
When you're talking about inspiration, optimism, and I love talking about almost normal people, Mother Teresa, not normal.
No.
I suppose you'd find it in the Aboriginal community, but amongst us mere mortals, what do you find most inspiring or generating of optimism? Thanks for putting me on the spot too, thanks.
You are so welcome anytime. I'll do it for you every single time. Yeah, so okay. You've actually just demonstrated it, Trace, right? To me, what do I find? People stepping outside their fear or stepping outside their why me, because I say why not me, right? It's easy to not do. It's much harder to do. So you could have gone blank then, gone off and saying, no, I'm not going to ask Adam that question. So that is what I find so inspiring. I find it inspiring that I can run a workshop or I can write a song and 10, 20 years down the track, I get an email from a kid who did Muso Magic, or I get an email from a fan from Chocolate Starfish saying, my mum loved your band. I just wanted you to know we just played Mountain at her funeral because that song gave her the courage to leave Dad, who was abusive. Right? So you don't have to be Mother Teresa to inspire me. You just have to make the choices more often than not to fight the good fight and to do what you know in your heart. Listen to your heart. Seriously, I know it's, I think it was, who was it? I can't, I mean, I've lost my train of thought, but listen, without being cliche, listen to what that says, because that will sometimes, through fear or whatever, will not neg you out. If that's switched on, it'll give you the right answer straight away. All right, who's next?
Jane, what soundtrack makes you optimistic? Jane's in the UK, by the way.
Hi, Janie.
Yes!
Hey everyone, morning, evening. Kay and I first met in when we were students together, so we go back a long time. I used to walk past the chapel in the university, and she and another friend who we're still in touch with Lucy was playing the piano and Kay used to be singing. And pretty much when the chapel wasn't being used for services, every time I walked past, it was a modern building with all glass, I could see Kay and Lucy just singing, and that always lifted my spirits. So for me, I'm classically trained, so but I love all sorts of music, loud sometimes. That's what picks me up. Although actually reflective music sometimes that can pick me up too. I loved Kay's latest recording on LinkedIn, just made me smile, and that's the ripple for me. So yeah, big orchestral pieces with lots of brass and percussion just make me smile, but then funny songs as well, like Flanders and Swan, just all sorts of different stuff.
And Jane's an amazing cellist, Adam, as well.
Fantastic. Jane, if I can just pick
I've got
up
my cello here with me.
Have you? Shall we do a duet right now?
Oh, it's a bit early in the morning for me.
It's a bit hot for me. Can you tell I'm sweating? So one of the things that we haven't really touched on with music is that there's two parts to that. There's the sound of the instrumentation, and then there's the lyrics. And quite often there's a song that I might not like the beat or I might not like the chords, but if I listen to the words or if I read the words, there's something special and brilliant about that. So sometimes don't just focus on the full sound, right? Try and listen to and look at the different parts, because sometimes the words are magical on their own.
So nice, so valuable. Lisa, what's your soundtrack when you're in a fug? What lifts you from your fug?
Hi everyone. I'm going to say electro swing, because my mum used to love swing music and I used to take her to go and see big bands and things like that. So I quite like that. And fairly recently, I guess, that electro swing genre came out, and it's just wonderful because it's such a fusion of where we're at now with all the techno beats and the swing sound. So that gets me off dancing.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Noreen, what's your lift me out of my fug soundtrack?
Oh, I don't know. I've so many thoughts running through my head right now. Adam, it's lovely to hear you, and I'm a new Australian, so I'm actually reacquainting myself with your work, but it's amazing. Congratulations. I was just thinking as I was listening to you, Kay, talking about your ripple effect and how music is so, it's just so powerful, I suppose, but it's powerful in ways that it's actually quite disguising. So I have found myself, over the years when I've been very busy running around, work, kids thing, going to an event, like a music event, and getting there going, okay, now I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it, and suddenly, actually, it was a Pink concert. I went to a Pink concert a couple of years ago. I hadn't been to a concert in ages, right? And she's amazing. Pink is amazing when she performs live. And I actually found myself crying. And I thought, this is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. I don't even know why I'm crying. And it was almost like, it's funny, and I heard later people talk about music speaking to your heart and your soul and not your mind. Sometimes it actually like, it sort of reveals how you're really feeling, you know what I mean? And I was actually, like, she was an amazing performer. And I just felt so enveloped in what was happening. And I was taken by surprise. So my first thing is that music is just, this is a reminder, music is so incredibly powerful, and we should just listen to it more, and we should engage with it more, and we should go to more concerts, and we should involve our lives in more music, because we'd probably be happier and better, people if we did. To answer your question, Kay, my go-to group thing is September by, is it Earth, Wind and Fire?
Earth, Wind and Fire.
It's a bit of a no-brainer for me, really. It's just, it immediately just drums it up, get going, on with the day. Yeah.
Would you believe the London School of Economics this week released a report that said that is the happiest song on Spotify, followed by Farrell's Happy. But the index of music to raise the stock market, Earth, Wind and Fire was number one.
Oh, love it.
That's so good. I really resonate with that, Noreen, because the first thing I went to after lockdown lifted was Chopin by candlelight up at the meat market. And it was so beautiful. And at one point, I realized that I had tears rolling down my face. Now, I wasn't sighing, sobbing. I wasn't, but there was just that outpouring of, I think it was being out after all that time. It was the beauty of the music, the uplifting nature of them. But that's very real, I think, isn't it?
Just it's so disarming and so revealing and so truthful, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. Helen, you said something in chat that was really interesting. It's about often the space you're in and how the space affects the sound. Tell us a bit about that, and tell us what's your lifting soundtrack.
My lifting soundtrack is anything by the Fratells. I do love them. I think they're awesome. Henrietta always gets me up and bouncing around the room. But for me, I got to go two sides to this. I do a lot of work with Islamic and Jewish schools and Indigenous communities, and that being grounded on earth and your sense of country and belonging, I think, is really critical to how the sound bounces off space, not only in a physical space in a building, but space in nature, and singing in valleys and in canyons is quite amazing. I was up in the Northern Territory, but then when I got to finally go back to Scotland, where my family is from, I got to sing in Roslyn's Chapel, and singing a Celtic song and just being grounded in that space. It was almost like a homecoming, and it was quite, I was really teary at the end of it, like almost fetal position. But it's just, often I find it's the space. And as you were just saying, Kay, after lockdown, we went to, it's down Port Melbourne way, the Candles there, and we did 4 seasons. And I took my partner, and it was the first time he ever attended an orchestral piece of work. And he was so moved by it. He'd never been exposed to that, whereas I grew up going to the MSO all the time. So for me, it's the space and what the space adds to it. In teaching, we talk about the environment as the third teacher, and I think sometimes space is that third element to music as well.
So can I just footnote that too, Helen, because with regards to young people, because Tracy just put a thing that age is wonderful for letting you release those inhibitions. And I think one of the greatest challenges when I created Muso Magic was young people almost have this, you're either great at it or you're not good at it, so don't do it, right? Whether that's music, sport, whatever it might be. And I think there's a whole developmental learning of self that they're missing out on because they fear others' opinions of them. So I think as adults, one of our greatest challenges with young people is to allow them to just do it without judgment, without measurement, without labeling. Am I good at this? Am I not? Do I enjoy it? Right? That's the key.
Yep.
Beautiful. Right, we've got a very special treat for you. When we were preparing for this session, we were talking about the songs that mean something and create something in us. And Adam said, "I'd just like to sing you something that really hits for me." And we were like, "Oh yes, please!" And he's agreed to sing for us tonight. So, this is the space we're in. It's a virtual space. You're going to hear raw. And by that, I mean authentic, like not that anything is raw, but there's no soundtrack. There's just Adam and his passion and a message of hope. Adam, over to you, love.
Thanks, Kay. So this song is on Reconnected, the album that I did in Sweden. So I'm going to do this one from silence. It's and I'd like you to focus in on the words because they say everything about the journey. It's your time. Breathe in every sign. When it glitters, you won't be surprised, 'cause you've chased the sun more than anyone. Then you saw the light was deep inside. Don't believe all the negatives. Open up your eyes. You can shine to make a better day. And there's no excuses when you choose it. You won't be afraid to blow your mind on a perfect day. Sometimes heaven takes forever until it comes your way, precious soul. When you look for gold, you've already found the mother lode. So take your name up to a higher plane. Then as you climb, the sun is by your side. Hold tight, it's gonna be alright. Everything is fine, 'cause you can shine to make a better day. There's no excuses when you choose it. I know that you won't be afraid to blow your mind. Today's a perfect day. Sometimes heaven takes forever, but until it comes your way, you can shine. Thank you. And you know what? We've still got 2 minutes. So for the new people like Nora and who else is just who's my English friend? Or she's probably still there, is she? That played the cello. If you don't know, Jane. Sorry, I just can't see her on the screen. This is the lyric to, and I made that choice about being the river about 20 years ago. So this is a little bit of mountain for you. There once was a wrong, thought it was right. There once was a truth, thought it could lie. But then they saw they were nothing new at all. After a storm along came a landslide. Would I climb, would I swim? Time to decide. If I have to choose, I know what I'd do. You wanted me to be a mountain, I'd rather be a river, 'cause water flow can wash out, heal away. You wanted me to fly, I wanna get high. How else am I gonna see? Everybody come off mute and sing along with me. It goes like this. Come on. La 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 la. We're out of time, but we don't really care now. La 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 la. Come on, everybody, one more time now. La 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 You're all smiling, so it looks like you've had a good time. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Well, I think
Victor, we'll go
my
back to
job
you.
it's my job to say thank you. And Adam, you are just marvelous. I've just put the ticket link for you at Crown next Friday. So everyone, if you want to experience a full concert with Adam, it's next Friday. You're just wonderful, Adam. You have me as a lifelong fan and
Thank you.
collaborator. So thank you so much on behalf of everyone. And Kay, you are our queen of optimism music. We love you. So thank you. Formally end. I'll switch off the video and we can all still gossip and chat. Adam, of course, is roasting.
I am.
Because he is north of Shepparton. It's
Guys, it's
35
hot in
degrees
the city.
outside.
Hot in the city
City
tonight.
tonight.
All right.
So 35 outside, 36 inside.
It is.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that. Come along and get involved with the Centre for Optimism and our joy and our singing and our laughter and our search for what makes people optimistic. So go to the website, Centre for Optimism. You can sign up as a member or you can sign up just for the free newsletter to get involved in what we do. And yeah, listen to Adam, listen to Kay, and enjoy the day.